Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of our Ethics of Intimate Portraiture series. I am Mitzi Starkweather, and I am so honored to be co-hosting with Christina Meerloo. And today we are talking about portraiture as reclamation. And I'm so excited for this episode because we have a special guest that I invited. His name is D'Artagnan Winford. And he is a portrait photographer. He's done that for about 13 years, and he's also a full-time art director. So if you check out his work, which I hope you give him a follow as soon as you hear about this, you will see so much beauty, so much purpose, and true art in his work. And as I mentioned before we started recording, one of the reasons I really wanted to invite D'Artagnan on is because I see his heart in his work. And I also, because of, a lot of my peers and a lot of the students I mentor, am hit with this question a lot, like, hey, Mitzi, but what about men doing boudoir photography? What about men? Like, it must be easier for you because you're a woman, et cetera, et cetera. And so I really wanted to have the male perspective on the show today. So thank you, D'Artagnan, for joining us. And I'm really excited for this conversation.
You're welcome, Missy. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Yay.
All right. So first, what we want to talk about is reclaiming visibility. So after like shame, transition, basically this idea that one of the things we can do as intimate portrait photographers is hold space for someone when they have gone through a big change in their body. And so I know, D'Artagnan, like, you photograph, you do boudoir, you do fine art nude, you do, a lot of work that people uncovered, like, not with clothing on, but also like to show off their athleticism or to show off, like, amazing maternity. What is something that you could speak to around the reclaiming of someone's visibility of who they are when you photograph them?
Um, Delving into that topic, I would say, I don't know, the reclaiming of the visibility. That's something. Let me think about that for a second.
Here's something that comes to mind that
Go ahead.
series you did
Hmm.
that was in an art gallery, and there was like it was about motherhood.
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
can you tell
yes.
us a little bit about that? Was like a project that you did that I thought was so powerful and like just said so many important things.
So that piece was called Earth, and I'll just kind of give you the backstory on that. Um, I was following that mom on Facebook, and I saw that she had, recently had a baby, and she talked about breastfeeding, and I thought about, we all know breastfeeding is important. It's the most nutrient dense milk a baby can get. It's natural. And I thought about that, and I reached out to her about maybe just doing a mommy and me session, that kind of focuses on breastfeeding, and she was very much so into it. So we got in my studio, just simple one light set. I mean, no light setup actually. That was a natural light in my little corner in my space, and it was just a conversation. She was talking to me, and of course, with a baby, you can't time it. So she kind of came around the time she knew her baby would, be hungry or whatever. And so before that, we just had a conversation about what we are going to do that day, and what we got out of it was something beautiful. I think it highlighted motherhood, it highlighted womanhood, it highlighted nature, it highlighted Black women. So that piece, I think I'm probably more known for that piece than anything else I've created. It was in the museum here, and actually someone ended up buying it, later on,
Wow.
a collector from Arizona ended up buying it. So yeah, that piece was, I think, very, yeah, I'm more known for that probably than anything, that piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that that piece just really brings up something important about this intimate portraiture as we've been speaking about it, because
Hmm.
that can encompass boudoir, that can
Hmm.
encompass fine art nude. But like what you created, yes, it was like of a female breast.
Yes.
And it was an intimate moment, but it
Hmm.
wasn't sexy. It wasn't, it wasn't this thing that we tend to just lump that type of portraiture into. It went a lot
Hmm.
deeper than that, and it showed something like really honest and really raw. And so I think, like, for myself, I can relate to, after my own shame that I carried after I had my bilateral mastectomy a few years
Hmm.
ago. And that was where, my portrait style really shifted after that from like polished and highly photoshopped and highly stylized to something more raw because I had gone through a big change in my body, and getting in front of the camera and celebrating that was really powerful. And I ended up seeing, a lot of other people respond to that in a way that was like, wow, that's showing me that I can show up despite myself not, measuring up to beauty standards. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the most powerful pieces of it, right? It's like the other people who see themselves in that work. So like what you
Hmm.
were saying with that, that mother, like that woman, like the other women who see that portrait, the
Yeah.
other moms, the other, women of color, like all these different categories, and like get to see this as something greater and something deeper. But I do know that you also do like boudoir photography, and I've seen
Hmm.
some amazing portraits you've done of like, really like athletic dancers and stuff like that. So for you, I'd love for you to speak to when you're how you navigate that, especially as a man, like coming in to photograph those really intimate moments or those
Hmm.
really, moments that some men might kind of shy away from.
So what I would say is being a male photographer who primarily photographs women is a delicate line to begin with, and rule number one is to see the person as a human. Number two, it is to not objectify that person, but realize, hey, this is a person in front of you. And I'll be honest, as a man, I kind of envy women boudoir photographers because you can get shots, you can say things that me, I just can't say. I give you a perfect example. I was
Your boobs look great right now. Like, yeah.
right. I one time photographed these three burlesque dancers, and they came up, and one had just had a baby, and I was photographing her, and the other two were kind of sitting behind me, and I could not bring myself. I'm very conscious of what I say. I could not bring myself to tell that lady to suck her stomach in, and but one of her friends saw me. She saw my face, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I showed her the back of the camera. And she was like, bitch, suck it in. And I was like, I could not say that. I was like, okay, all right, you said it. But
Right.
as far as just it's just a fine line. And I've been told that my sessions are therapeutic for people, and I don't take that for granted. So usually the way my sessions work is, you know, we get in here once hair and makeup's done and all that kind of stuff. We really just have a conversation. We see each other as human. We're just talking. We're talking about life. And in the process, we come out with something beautiful. And my thing is not to like gawk at people or make people feel like they are unclothed. But to just capture them at angles that really um that really, I would say, edify them, that really, uplifts them. And so when I show them those images, they're usually like, "Hey, is that me?" Like, and I've had people to say that before, and I was thinking one time, I was like, "Man, that person's she's just making small talk," And later on, this girl sent me back this voice message of herself. She was driving, so she just recorded herself, and she was like, "Hey, when I said, was that me, I really meant that." She was like, "But you didn't know is I had been in deep depression for the last 2 years, and I really didn't recognize myself when I saw that picture on the back of your camera." And I'm getting goosebumps again telling that story. But when she sent that, I looked at my wife and I let my wife listen to it, and I was like, "Man, that lets me know that what I do means so much more to people than just the physical, what you see."
Yeah.
So, yes.
Oh, that's really beautiful. And Tina, like when you think about people, you know, experiences people have had in front of your camera that they didn't expect or you didn't expect meant a lot to them. Do you have any stories that come to mind or examples?
I would have to say my favorite client has come to me every year on the same date to celebrate their transition. And I hold that so near and dear to my heart because I I just not only do I love playing dress up with her, but I love the joy. I love sharing in the joy and the celebration, and I love sharing in her feelings of how beautiful she feels when she looks at the photos, and how she embodied she feels, and how true and authentic to herself she really feels. And I love creating that space. And I just, that she's my dream client.
Wow.
And that is just for me, that's what this job is all about.
It is. I agree. I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Because it's like you can help remind someone who they are,
Mhm.
right? Like you were saying, D'Artagnan, you can just you show them that picture. I can't believe that's me. And I've had that experience. I think many of us photographers have had a similar experience. And it's like we're just sitting here like, yeah, that's you. That's the person who walked in. Like, especially
Yeah.
if we've never seen them before, we've never seen
Mhm.
them 5 years ago or 2 years ago or three. Like, we're like, well, this is
Mhm.
just you. And it's just really, really powerful. So I have a question for both of you guys. I'd like to hear your take on this. Why do you think that some people, I'm going to start with D'Artagnan, why do you think that some people avoid the camera for years?
It's funny you asked that question because I was just thinking of a story in my head. I think, I think maybe a small part of us, there are very few of us who really think we're beautiful or handsome. I'll put it like that, And there's a small sector who just know they have it. But
Yeah.
for most of us, and I'll be honest, like we as photographers, we see it in them. They don't see it. I remember when I first got started, I would be walking around Target and Walmart, and I'm just looking at faces, and I'm like, oh, I would love to photograph her. I would love to photograph him. And these same people wouldn't understand what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So I recently photographed this mom and wife, and she just hadn't done anything for herself like that, ever. And she, once I showed her the picture, she really couldn't believe that was her. And what I find is, as a photographer, again, this is a delicate dance. You kind of, you're building self-esteem in people, because they don't see it. And I think it's genuine, they don't see it. I see some people's profile and I'm like, man, you have a gorgeous profile. Like I just want to shoot that profile.
Mhm.
Nobody's ever told them that before. Or, a lot of times people deal with a lot of insecurities because of how they were brought up and things that were said to them and, things like that. And that kind of stuff gets into their mental and it becomes a part of them. And it takes a long time to kind of break them out of that or help them to be able to see themselves different. So, yeah, I think and I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I think as a photographer, especially delving into portraiture, boudoir, and fine art, it's important that we help people to see themselves or to see themselves the way we see them and the way the rest of the world sees them.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that when it comes to boudoir specifically, can you
Mhm.
speak to that? Like, as far as how you maybe interact with clients or prepare them differently or more, like, or do you kind of have the same process, like, no matter what type of portrait you do?
It's kind of the same process, although um uh hmm, it's kind of the same process, although I do take special care to say, hey, okay, we're gonna do this. Give you a perfect example. So there was this another client I photographed. Her kids and my kids were in Boy Scouts together, and she's a doctor, beautiful lady. She probably wouldn't accept it if you called her beautiful. And so I invited her for a session, and because I'll be honest, sometimes I do things for creativity wise, like I just want to, I see a face, I'm like, I want to capture you.
Yeah.
And she said, um, no, I want to pay for it. She was like, I'll do it on my 40th birthday. And I was like, okay, all right. So I sent her my prices. She paid. And so she came. And what we did at first was we did just a series of portraits of her in different outfits. Um, she like had a nice dress. She had like this kind of leather dress, like really stunning lady again. Portraits came out well, really nice. And she shocked me because she wanted to do something boudoir-esque, you know. And I was like, okay. And so um she didn't know what it was. And this is kind of spur of the moment. So I'm like, okay, we'll do what I call my white sheet session. And
Mhm.
so I and at this time my makeup artist is gone. And so I step out of the room, let her get dressed and prepare herself and everything, and told her, hey, let me know when you're ready and I'll come back in. We'll do this. And so I come back in and she's rolled up in a sheet like a burrito.
Yeah.
And so I delicately just talked her through it as we peel back the layers, to show just a little leg, just a little shoulder, until we got it to a point to where she was comfortable. And I think the key thing is to not put a person in a space that they're not comfortable in. Because sometimes we as photographers, we may have something creative in our mind, but if that person's not comfortable, it'll show through in their eyes. It'll show through in the pictures. And so I got her to a place and we dated and she was happy. And so she sent me, once she got her prints back, she sent me a photograph of her husband looking at the print. And he was like, whoa. He couldn't believe that was her either. And here's the crazy thing. This was her first time getting dolled up, like getting her hair done, getting her makeup done and everything. And she was just so just exciting, to have that day of pampering. So to answer your question about how do I prepare people kind of similar. However, again, it's a conversation and it's a trust thing that I build with these people. And I honor that trust. And so that's how we go about it.
Yeah, and I love that one of the words you've said over and over since we started chatting today is
Mhm.
conversation.
Yes.
It's a conversation.
Hmm.
We're just having a conversation. And it's
Yeah.
like that, I think that's one of the most powerful things and one of the
Hmm.
things that I would overthink my way through
Yeah.
for so much of my career was just like, well, what do they want this? What are they? And it's like just pay attention. What are they
Hmm.
saying? What are they
Yes.
doing?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
what is the first thing that you don't have to say, what's your favorite thing that you brought today? What's the
Mhm.
first thing they pulled out of their bag to show you? Like,
Right. Right.
what did they say? Oh, they mentioned that. What's the three words they typed in their little contact form when they reached out? Or
Hmm.
that first message, like, don't, because they're going to get in their head and overthink it already. So just
Correct.
go back to what they've literally been telling you.
Hmm.
And I think too, that builds that trust because they can tell you're listening. And so
Yes.
it's like, if you're asking questions or saying, well, remember earlier when you said this, like I'll literally just quote people sometimes back
Hmm.
to them and they're like, wow, that's really beautiful. And I'm like, you said that 20 minutes ago. Like
Correct.
you said that to me while we were shooting. They're like,
Yeah.
really? Or,
Yeah.
whatever. And it's just, yeah. So I think it's that having that conversation and being willing to just be open because the conversation is very much that, like Tina, what we were talking about last time, it's that with mentality, not to. You're not doing this session to them. Like
Hmm.
you're doing this with them. And like you said,
Yes.
D'Artagnan is a delicate dance. Like it is a
Hmm.
dance and that takes two people. So Tina, can you speak to that?
Yeah, actually, so I actually wanted to jump back to when we were talking about why people avoid cameras. And I feel like the one thing that we didn't touch on was shame
Hmm.
and how powerful your face. You're like, yeah. Shame is such a powerful energy,
Hmm.
and
It
it
is.
really stops us from showing up as our authentic selves in
Hmm.
so many different ways.
Yes.
And I think that the biggest gift that we can give our clients and all people that step in front of our camera is just the space to kind of shed a little bit of that shame.
Hmm.
And I think the way that we do that is by conversation.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that ties into how we were just talking about having that running conversation throughout the session, like, hey, what are we embodying today? Like what
Hmm.
energy are we embodying today? And it's our job to know the nuance of people's reactions
Hmm.
and to understand how to lead and guide
Hmm.
our clients to a version of themselves that they've just been waiting for.
I agree.
Yes.
I think thinking about what you just said, what we do is not your standard, Olin Mills, JC Penney type thing where the person just comes and sits down and you pose them. We are inviting, even though these people are paying us, they are co-creators, and
Yes.
Mhm.
so
Absolutely.
and kind of brings me to this thought I had. I photographed this one lady, and she only wanted to do a certain kind of look, and it wasn't until the conversation in the studio, and I showed her an image on the back of the camera, and she was like, "Hold up, let's do this." Like she took the lead, and she was like,
So
"Oh."
good.
She was like, "Do you mind catching me like this?" Like, sure, So it's like I think when they see, and most people visual, when you see it and you're just like, they're like, "Oh, I see your vision now," Okay, let's do this, and so again, they become your co-creators, so a lot of
Yes.
times you come out of there with stuff you didn't think you were going to come out with, so yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot of times they're underestimating themselves so much. Like they don't
Yes.
even think that that could be possible. Even if you
Mhm.
told them that ahead of time, they'd be like, oh, well, maybe
Right,
you could. They'd probably say, well, I know you as the photographer could make that happen, but not with me. And we're just here
right.
like, well, of course I can. Okay, Tina, I need to know, do you show on the back of the camera throughout the shoot? Are you
Yes.
a street viewer? Okay, so we all do it. There's some
Mhm.
people who are like, really like, no, I would never. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I always do. I think it's great.
It's part of the creative process. I mean,
Totally.
Yeah.
it's kind of like creating a style,
Absolutely.
though, if you don't, I mean, you
Yeah.
want to you want to show. I do it mainly to show the person how they look, and because
Like you could trust me.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Like I got you. You could
yeah,
trust me.
yes, because once you show them that, they can be so uptight, but
Hmm.
once you get a shot that is fire, and you show them that, they're like, oh, okay,
Changes
that's it
everything.
does every time
Hmm.
it does. They're ready now, and I tell people, I say I've had people come in and they give me a handshake at the door, but when they leave, they're asking for a hug, because you
Yeah.
made them feel comfortable, So I get that.
Yes.
Yes.
And in my experience, it's so much more than just making people feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I truly feel like the connection that I have with the people who stand in front of my camera is something that I have a gift
Yeah.
for.
Yes. I agree. I agree.
And it is my honor
Mm-hmm.
and my life's work,
Mm-hmm.
really. And it just is so fulfilling to be able to create art
Mm-hmm.
and also, I hate to sound redundant, but like creating these spaces where people can really shed all these preconceived notions and labels
Yeah.
and bullshit, and they can
Yeah.
just leave it all at the door of the studio and they come into your studio and you make magic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You see?
absolutely. I still remember a few years ago when I was in therapy, and well, I still go to the same therapist, but it was a few years ago, and she said, shame hates light. We were
Mm.
talking, and I was talking about something I was ashamed of in my own life, like a thing, like it was like this thing I was carrying, and I was only talking to her about it at the time. And she goes, here's the thing about shame. She goes, as soon as you flip the light on, it scatters. It's like cockroaches,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It scatters and hides. It hates light.
Yeah.
And so I remember then just a few months later, after I realized that I had a lot of shame around my body after, going flat after breast cancer. And then I thought, shame hates light. Shine
Mm-hmm.
a light on the shame. And I remember I was sitting in my studio that day and I look up at like my big main light, like my big softbox. And I was like, well, I'm a photographer, which means
Yes.
like painting with light. I guess I'll
Mm-hmm.
shine a light on my shame, like put a
Mm-hmm.
physical single spotlight on my body and just look at it. And
Yeah.
that's where I got my whole philosophy for my whole raw portrait series and why I shot it that way. I was like, let's just put a light. And so I started to say that to the people I photograph. How about we shine a light on your shame?
Mm-hmm.
Let's not even like not talk about it or try to fix it. Let's highlight it. And then
Yes.
when you look at it and your brain is literally thinking, well, I'm going to die. Like
Hmm.
obviously, like that's what our brain does. It goes that extreme. Like
Yeah.
if I look at this thing, it's life or death. And so when
Hmm.
you show your brain like, oh, when I look at that, I'm actually fine. Wait, I'm actually like freer now. I feel lighter. Like,
Yeah.
and it has this complete opposite effect, and it can be so life-giving and so beautiful. And I think it's kind of like what you were talking about, D'Artagnan, with that client. Like the way she was physically covering up her whole body with the white
Hmm.
sheet. And I've had that
Hmm.
same,
Yeah.
experience. Like people come out of the dressing room and they're holding that white sheet like it's a towel after you got out of the pool and you're freezing.
Yes.
Like you're like, okay, let's bring your arm out, okay,
Yeah.
and they're just
Yeah.
like death grip. And then
Hmm.
by the end, it's barely like an accessory and they can
Yeah.
take or leave it, right? It's such a
Hmm.
powerful like metaphor for just removing and just being like, I'm actually not ashamed, and
I
there's
agree.
freedom in that.
I agree.
Is
Uh,
there a way that either of you could speak to like how you and your own journey as a photographer has also had to mirror that, like with your own shame or like anything that you had to bring to the light?
I don't know. I would say for me, it's just doing self-portraiture, of
Mhm.
myself.
Yes.
I'm not used to the camera being on me, of course, and so, once a year I'll do it for my birthday, actually it's coming up soon. I need to do it probably this weekend, but, and I have no idea what I'm going to do, but that allows me to be vulnerable to myself and to the world once I post it, and that's a chore for me, just to even take a picture of myself and just say, hey, that's you, that is, this is how you show up in the world, so that is probably it for me, just looking in the mirror, but actually capturing a photo, and letting that be, hey, this is me at 48, this is me at 47, blah, 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 because also it leaves a record, I think about the greats and, a lot of them did self-portraits, whether it were drawings or paintings or, but I think for me, I know it's a hard thing to photograph yourself and look at it and just sit with it and not Photoshop it, but say, yeah, this is me, So yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that you do it. I love that because that's something that I'm always telling photographers that it's
Mhm.
such a powerful thing if you tap into it and you don't always feel like it, but like
Yeah,
it's a very valuable practice.
it is. I agree.
Yeah, I would have to say that as I am approaching my 40s, I think that I'm in this place where I am starting to really accept the fact that like I'm seeing signs of aging and
Mhm.
parts of my body are like starting to fail on me, and I just I'm very dedicated to being like extremely kind with myself and also focusing on not projecting these aging hangups that I have onto how I perceive beauty.
Hmm.
Um, because when I scroll through the internet and I see an image or a video of an older woman and she's really confident and she's just like in her vibes and embodied, I am like so drawn to her.
Yeah.
And I'm so like in awe,
Hmm.
really.
Hmm.
And I'm like, how do I translate that feeling
Hmm.
into how I feel about myself and aging? And I've deduced that I just have to kind of like fake it till I make it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing, and it's working so far.
Christina, I'll say this. What you probably don't understand or don't know is that person is probably not as confident as you think they are either. You know,
Here, here.
because again, I I photograph some beautiful people, but they're beautiful to me. When you get to talking to them, you find out people have all kind of hangups, things that nobody would notice but them. Matter of fact, it's not even there. I think it's their mind telling them it's there. Um, there's this piece I did one of the girls I work with a lot, and I think it's beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. This is in my old studio, natural light, picture. She's standing, I have her propped up almost like on a pedestal. She has fabric on her, it's flowing. She has a big curly afro, and so it's kind of blowing in the wind. And beautiful picture. The one thing that hangs her up that nobody sees but her arm is outstretched like this, and she feels like her arm is too big. I've shown that picture to countless people, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I wish I had a picture like this." But when you see her physically, you would think she's gorgeous, but that one thing is keeping just her from posting that picture. And I'm like, "Are you serious? Like, that's gorgeous, you know?"
Yeah.
But I've learned that a lot of people, like I said before, have hangups because of, like moms are the worst, honestly. I'm sorry. Some moms have said some things to some daughters, and people have told me, and I'm like, wow, like, and so it makes me really cautious of what I say to my daughters and what because kids internalize that stuff, and those kids become grown-ups who internalize that stuff, and sometimes they'll pass that on to their kids, but for the most part, like I said, we see those people on the physical, we see them as being, handsome or beautiful, like to me, when I look at Clint Eastwood, like if you Google Clint Eastwood in his older age and he's probably had a shirt on like this, he's a handsome man, just the way his wrinkles fall and everything. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I hope I look like that, Now, probably doesn't care about how he looks, but his chin, just everything, everything just aged perfectly, but he probably doesn't care. But back to your thing, Christina, that lady you're talking about, she may have self-esteem issues herself, but we see
Yeah.
her as being
Oh,
gorgeous,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I assume that everybody has self-esteem issues,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say about your Clint Eastwood comment was
Uh-huh.
I think that's part of being a photographer is that we love a face.
Yes. Yes.
We
Yes.
love a face.
Like
You
the
Hmm.
know
more
what I mean?
interesting, the better. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
exactly. So I see beauty everywhere. And
Same.
I think that's just kind of like one of the I just like that's just lucky. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
got lucky. Like I just look at people's faces and I'm like, ooh, like
Hmm.
fascinating. Like
Uh,
I love this part. I love this. I love that, you know, and I feel like for us, you
hmm.
know, that's part of our gift collectively as photographers is that
Yes.
we can bring out the uniqueness in people and show them why it's so special. And
Hmm.
I think the emotional impact of that is
Hmm.
seriously underrated.
Yes.
And how do you feel about that, Mitzi? Like, what are your thoughts on just like the emotional impact of these sessions that the emotional impact of damn
The
the
emotional significance of seeing yourself differently.
yeah
That
yeah so
to read what you
so
wrote. Yeah.
yeah so Mitzi, what do you think is like the emotional significance of like seeing yourself differently?
Oh my gosh. It's everything. I think sometimes it just takes, one person speaking life into us. Just like we were saying before, it could have
Hmm.
taken one comment from your mom to make you hate your thighs your whole life.
Yeah.
Or it
Yeah.
could take one comment from so and so to make you think that you're beautiful or you're
Hmm.
ugly or you're too short or you're too
Hmm.
this or that.
Hmm.
But I think at the same time, it can take one comment from someone who really means it to give someone a different perspective, like to
Yes.
shift that. I mean, there was a mentor in my life who a few years ago saw me in person at an event, and I've had this mentor for a long time. They didn't really know me, but like at the beginning while they're talking, I was sitting in the front row and they were talking about portrait photography, and they walked up to me in the group and they were talking about sensing someone's energy, and they said, like right now, and they looked me in the eye and said, I feel safe to be who I am with you, and you have a calm, kind energy. And then they got back up and kept teaching. The fact that I've been quoting this to you years later, like, believe that stuck
Profound.
with me.
Yeah.
We have that same opportunity to do that with our clients. And one of the things I've joked about as a portrait photographer and as a kid who, did fit in school and was weird. And I remember one time I wrote a letter to one of my friends in junior high because I thought she was like really cool, and I wrote all this nice stuff, and then she like made fun of it behind my back, like to these other kids. And like, I don't know.
Mhm.
Looking back, I probably had a crush on her and didn't realize it. But
Aw,
anyway,
been there.
those type of things, right? Where we're like, are that honesty, some in the wrong context, like it's awful, but in the right context,
Mhm.
like we have that opportunity. We can, I've always said like, the person I am, the intense, honest, no small talk, cut to the chase kind of person I am is perfect in a portrait setting because
Mhm.
relative strangers are walking in and I can just get real with them right away and say something to them and like call, and they're just like, wow, because they've signed up for it, right? And so we have that opportunity to really bring that to people. And it always brings to mind this one quote that he was one of the first like men, like just straight dads who joined my As I Am project when I did that a few years ago. And he said, Mitzi has a way of showing you all the things everyone else loves about you. And by the end of your session, you love those things too.
Wow, that's
And I
beautiful.
think that's in how we treat them, right? Like, because when you
Yeah.
treat someone and you make them feel safe and
Mhm.
worthy and valuable exactly as they are, like their truest, most beautiful, real self comes out. And then you're just there and you're just capturing it. And then you're
Yes.
like, see, look. And that's not their selfie face. That's
Mhm.
not the face, the controlled one, the one they're used to seeing. Like, and so
Mhm.
it's a little weird to them at first, but then they're just like, oh, wow. Like, and you can just, like I always say during my instant reveals with my clients where I show them every photo right after and like I watch them fall in love with themselves, like it's so
Mhm.
beautiful. And it's like
Yeah.
the way that we view them, we open it up for them to view themselves that way. And
Mhm.
I think that, like you said, Tina, that is an absolute gift. And like you said, D'Artagnan, that's something we should honor and
Yeah.
treat with the utmost respect because
Mhm.
it's really amazing. It's like it's so big and impactful yet so simple at the same time.
I agree. I think also what we do is we give those people a safe space in this world to feel like, okay, it's kind of like Vegas. Like, hey, what stays in the studio, what happens in the studio stays in the studio. I became a different person in the studio, or I not became a different person. I let that side of me that the world doesn't see out,
Yeah.
and you captured that. I trusted you enough for you to capture that for me. That one, and I tell people all the time, it's like, look, we may do some things that will never see the light of day. Only you and your husband will see it. Only you'll see it. You can put this in your bedroom, whatever. This is yours. But I think we are creating the safe spaces for those people, and it's kind of pivots me back to somewhere else. What we do is something that AI can't do. It can't. It can't because people can AI their faces all they want to, but it can never give a memory or an emotion of how it felt to see yourself like this the first time, and it's really you. You
Yeah.
know, AI can't do that. Matter of fact, I don't think in the future even if they made AI photographers who were robots or whatever, I don't think they would give people that same sense of, hey, I'm talking to a real human, I'm connecting with someone, and this is what I was able to get out of this. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think what we do is really special.
Absolutely. Oh, that was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that take, and I just wanted to say really quickly when you were talking about AI
Hmm.
and how, we aren't going anywhere.
Hmm.
I think that what we do will become I don't want to say status symbol,
Hmm.
but it will become a, hmm,
Is commodity the right word?
Well, I mean,
Or
it's a premium service, like
premium,
truly.
yeah, yeah,
it is already a premium service,
it
but I
is.
guess what I mean to say and what I mean to brainstorm is the concept that, you know, as AI gets more powerful and people start to kind of just use it to make their Facebook hit profile pictures and everything
Hmm.
like that, it's going to become extra special and extra luxurious
Hmm.
to go and have a portrait session with a fine art photographer
Hmm.
because anybody can just, you know, make something fake in AI, but
Yeah.
to really do it and to come into our space and to be with us and to be with
Hmm.
an artist and to conceptualize something together and to create together, the experience is what
Hmm.
becomes, well, it was already the commodity, right? But like
Yes, yes. But
really, it really
Yeah.
becomes the
It
commodity.
becomes
yeah,
more and more valuable
It
and
becomes
more and
more
more
valuable.
a piece
valuable.
of it.
Agreed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's why, like, especially with the photographers that I mentor, like, one of the biggest things I talk about with them is like developing this style and this business that you're making and all this in a way that aligns with you, like the
Hmm.
real you. Yes,
Hmm.
coaching's great, buying resources, getting some courses, that stuff's great, but like I'm until you have tapped in and unlocked like, oh, like this inner authority, this self-trust to show up and create the art that you want to create in the way only you can do it,
Hmm.
like that is more valuable now than ever. And it's like you're saying, Tina, pretty soon in the future it's going to become the only way to make a
I
living at
agree.
this.
I agree.
And so, because the thing is, I'm like, if I think I even said it in the last episode, if all of our work is so homogenous and so cookie cutter, then
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
it would be surprising if a computer couldn't replicate it, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. It'd be a
Correct.
pretty bad computer, is what you said, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, I will say for me, and I'm sure for you all too, what I've noticed is, women call me because they've seen their friends who were photographed by me, or someone they know, somebody in their Pilates class or yoga class, and they're like, "Hey, I want a session like that," and that session wasn't AI'd, it was a real experience, and that's what they're coming for. I think about, I had this doctor one time come to me. He's a bodybuilder. He's on my page, Dr. Gio. And he was coming from a show and he called me and said, I want to be photographed after my show. I want your style, blah, blah, blah. I don't care what it costs. I want this. And so he shows up and it was him and his wife. His wife went shopping while he and I shot. And I photographed him and he just loved what I was able to do for him. And I'm thinking about somebody like him who's he's worked on his body. He's real particular. He knows what muscles he has showing. He could have put that in AI, but AI would have done some things that weren't really there. And he wouldn't have been proud of that because he wanted to show his hard work, not AI.
Right.
And so yeah, I think you're right. I think I think the more and more AI increases, the more real work like what we do will become more and more valuable, to people because it is real. Um, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think this was an amazing chat.
Are we done?
Yeah,
This was great. This flew
yeah,
by. I
Oh
love it.
wow. That
yeah.
was good.
I thought this was so fantastic. Thank you so much, D'Artagnan, for
Oh, you're
coming
very
on the
welcome.
show, the sessions, the podcast. I don't even know what we're doing anymore, but we're having a great time.
Yes,
And
seriously. And D'Artagnan, where can
Mhm.
people follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram at D'Artagnan Portrait, and you can follow me on Facebook at D'Artagnan Portrait.
Perfect. Thank you again for joining us, D'Artagnan.
Thank you
thank you
guys. I
so
appreciate it,
much.
ladies. Thank you.